This is CBC Nova Scotia News.
A fire breaks out on board a Halifax school bus. Virtual reality rehab, how cutting-edge technology is helping Nova Scotia patients recover from life-altering injuries. And bats on the base. A new trial is underway to protect CFB Greenwood's winged occupants.
It's weekend time and a pretty good one shaping up. A couple of spotty showers in the mix for Saturday, but a brighter Sunday for Father's Day. Your full forecast details are coming up.
We begin with some scary moments for kids on a school bus in Hammonds Plains Thursday afternoon. The bus they were on caught fire and then exploded. Luckily, they were able to evacuate in time. Vernon Ramasar has the details.
A terrifying and dramatic scene as a school bus explodes shortly after catching fire. It happened on Carnoustie Drive in Hammonds Plains. The bus was taking elementary students home from Hammonds Plains Consolidated School around 3 o'clock Thursday afternoon when the driver noticed smoke coming from under the hood. The driver then pulled over and quickly got the children out of the bus. No one was injured by the fire, but one student suffered minor injuries during the evacuation. In a statement, school principal Lynn Corcom says, "We assured students they were safe and that we were calling their families. They remained calm and followed the driver's lead in a very scary situation. I am proud of everyone involved." Firefighters arrived quickly, but it took them hours to put out the blaze. School officials were also at the scene to calm the students until their families arrived. Chase Valiant lives only meters away from where the bus caught fire. He was in the middle of making an afternoon snack when he heard the first explosion and ran outside and recorded the bus engulfed in flames. He says his first thought was for the children.
I kind of figured that the kids were all off the bus, as my neighbor had told me, and so I was kind of just moving closer. We weren't sure if there was anyone, so I was just trying to look in the windows to see if there was anybody that needed help, and then there was, it really caught me off guard, a big explosion.
Friday, a day later, a blackened roadway, some broken glass, and scorched leaves are the only evidence left of the blaze. The leaves an indication this could have been much worse. This is close to the location of the 2023 Halifax area wildfires.
I'm really grateful and relieved that everyone is okay, and yeah, I'm happy that the bus driver seems like they did everything they could have done to keep themselves and the kids safe, so I feel like it was handled really well.
The Halifax Regional Centre for Education says it is working with bus provider Southland to find out what happened, and an investigation is underway. Vernon Ramasar, CBC News, Hammonds Plains.
The second-degree murder trial of Adam Drake is winding down. Drake is accused of killing Pat Stay in September of 2022 when he was stabbed in a downtown Halifax bar. Today, the Crown presented its closing argument. Josh Hoffman reports.
Closing arguments are underway in Adam Drake's second-degree murder trial. On Friday, Crown Attorney Tanya Carter told the jury that through the process of elimination, the only person who could have possibly stabbed Pat Stay is Adam Drake. Carter then used surveillance footage from the night of the incident at the Yacht Club Social to trace the steps of mostly everyone who was in the VIP room with Pat Stay before and after he was stabbed. Carter argued Drake's actions in the moments leading up to the stabbing show he was waiting for Stay to arrive at the bar, and then after the incident, he snuck out the back of the bar. This was day 19 of the trial, and things were pretty tense on Friday. Inside the courtroom, a full gallery with many of Pat Stay's family and friends in attendance. After the hearing outside of the courthouse, a crowd had gathered here in the parking lot when a man confronted the defense attorneys, forcing the sheriffs to come outside to try to settle things down. Now, the trial is scheduled to continue on Monday when the defense, who did not submit any evidence throughout the trial, will have their turn to deliver their closing arguments. Adam Drake has pleaded not guilty to the second-degree murder charge. Josh Hoffman, CBC News, Dartmouth.
Nova Scotia's highest court will not weigh in on the federal-provincial dispute over the Chignecto Isthmus. 2 years ago, the Nova Scotia government asked the Provincial Court of Appeal if Canada has exclusive legislative authority over the narrow strip of land that connects Nova Scotia and New Brunswick. A panel of 3 judges released their decision today, declining to answer. They said the question is vague, imprecise, and has political undertones. Premier Tim Houston responded to the decision, saying he's disappointed. Meanwhile, Nova Scotia MP Sean Fraser says the federal government is still committed to paying half the price of the work on the isthmus. Cape Breton Regional Municipality is reviewing its volunteer and career fire services over concerns about the number of stations and the cost of staffing and equipment. Last week, Council was told more than 20 fire trucks are reaching end of life and replacements would cost at least $20 million. CBRM councillors unanimously agreed to have the CAO conduct a thorough review, saying it's time to consider a more efficient distribution of equipment. There is no timeline set and no word on how the review will be done. Nova Scotia firefighters are headed home after about 2 weeks helping to battle the wildfires in Saskatchewan. The crew of 20 were assigned to what is one of the largest fires in that province and in Canada right now. Scott Tingley with the Nova Scotia Department of Natural Resources says the crew has been working in very challenging conditions to help protect communities.
They've been doing activities like burning out fuels between values at risk and those control lines, as well as the later part of the trip here, they've been doing some mop-up operations, just making sure any hot spots, things like that are around values are completely extinguished.
Tingley says it's been a very quiet wildfire season in Nova Scotia so far, pointing to the regular rainfall and wet conditions through much of April and May. Yes, and Ryan, sometimes we grumble about the rain, but, you know, the alternative is much worse.
Yeah, that's right. And for the 13th weekend in a row, we will have some precipitation falling in the province on a weekend. And yes, so 13 for 13 we will go. Although it does look like it's going to be one of the better weekends that we have had through this spring. As you can see, some spotty showers, yes, but some breaks of sun. Temperatures mid to high teens mostly, mid-teens in through those onshore winds in the southwest, and we'll be near 20 degrees up towards the Truro region. Now, as we look at the outlook for Sunday, this for Father's Day is going to be overall a better day. Temperatures high teens, low 20s, a solid mix of sun and cloud, and yeah, the precipitation will stay at bay. It's all thanks to this area of high pressure, which is rolling in from the northwest. You can see this system just brushing us off to the south with some clouds and some of those spotty showers for Saturday. There's the high coming in for Sunday, and it does look like we'll start quiet next week as well. The mugginess building in mid to late next week. We'll talk about that with your full 7-day coming up. Amy.
All right, sounds good. Thanks, Ryan.
Thank you.
Nova Scotians recovering from life-altering injuries, including strokes and brain damage, are gaining access to a new space that will aid in their recovery using cutting-edge technology. The brand new Upper Extremity Performance Center opened this week in Halifax and uses virtual reality to help patients in their rehab. Andrew Sampson reports.
Jared Hanley reaches for an egg and cracks it into the pan. He's cooking it just the way he likes, sunny side up. But this isn't real life, it's virtual reality. The VR experience is a centerpiece of a new room at the QE2's Rehabilitation and Arthritis Center.
It's been very good. As you've seen there, you can mimic and get a lot of exercise.
Since the stroke last year, making breakfast has been a challenge.
I was confined to a wheelchair and my arm was in a sling.
Hanley's come a long way since then, regaining much of his mobility. Thanks to his rehab team and with help from the new tech, he's closer than ever to cracking his own eggs once again. The project was funded thanks to $150,000 in donations to the QE2 Foundation.
The donors really believe in the care that's being delivered here. The clinicians, the rehab team are exceptional at what they do, and really we're in need of upgraded space and new technology.
Using technology that includes an Xbox Connect, patients can now simulate a wide range of real-life tasks, from planting a garden to putting dishes away and cooking a meal.
After a brain injury or a stroke or other injury like that, changes to a person's ability to use their arm and hand are really common. It's hard in everyday activities to get hundreds of repetitions. You only open a drawer once to get something out of it. You don't do it 200 times. So using the technology like the VR is giving us incredible opportunities to get a higher volume of repetitions to help with this recovery.
The new technology will help empower more patients to further their rehab journey, whether at home or in the center.
We want to be able to, people to be able to access therapy when they need it and where they need it.
For Hanley, it's been a long road to recovery, but it's all been worth it.
It's very, very rewarding.
With each new rehab sesh, he's one step closer to being right where he wants to be, back to work at his day job as an electrician. Andrew Sampson, CBC News, Halifax.
Nova Scotia is changing the approval process for metal mines, the latest step in the Houston government's push for more resource development. There are now 15 fewer requirements for submitting an application for industrial approval. That's the step that comes after a project receives environmental approval. The requirements that were dropped include air emissions and noise monitoring plans. Companies will eventually have to submit those items, but not until after the project is approved to start operating. Environment and Climate Change Minister Tim Hallman says the changes will not compromise the environment.
We are embracing the fact that strong environmental protection, economic opportunity, and regulatory clarity are not competing priorities. They must work together. And in Nova Scotia, they will.
Hallman says the changes are based on requests from the industry. Department officials say they consulted with the Mining Association of Nova Scotia and the Mining Society of Nova Scotia. Fewer Canadians are using the CAT ferry service between Nova Scotia and Maine. According to numbers released by Bay Ferries, overall there's been a drop of more than 20% for those using the service compared to this time last year. The company says the ship has completed 15 round trips since the season began on May 15th. It had to cancel 5 crossings so far this season due to weather. A bat house trial is taking flight at the Air Force Base in Greenwood. The goal of the trial is to protect the base's winged occupants. The CBC's Meg Campbell has that story.
A military plane taking off is a typical sight at the Greenwood Air Force Base. Also taking flight, bats, and lots of them. To make sure they are protected from humans and possible mid-air collisions, these trial homes have been erected.
So what happened is we noticed bats in the entryways and the hangars across the wing, and we noticed that that was an issue. First and foremost, it's for the safety of the members of 14 Wing and the visitors of 14 Wing. And secondly, it's because the bats that we noticed, they're an endangered species, so it was to protect the bats that we also came up with the bat houses.
The recording of the bats can be analyzed to determine what species of the bats are present.
Environmental Officer Alan Ng says the houses act as high-tech trees, capturing sound and other information that will eventually determine if the bats put the houses to use.
Whether the bat houses at 14 Wing Greenwood are permanent installation, that will depend on the data we are going to collect this year.
According to experts, it's important to protect these types of bats found at the base after they almost went extinct.
The disease white nose syndrome, which is caused by a fungus, spread to the area. Well, we first noticed it anyway in 2011. And at that time, it caused a huge die-off of those 3 bat species. Over 99% of the population disappeared, and we found hundreds and hundreds of bodies. So after that, they were declared endangered.
Vanderwolf says it's the little brown bat who most often hangs out at these bat houses. The team behind the project is hopeful these houses will work before making any plans to bat around more ideas.
So we hope to see the bats using the houses and the bats getting out of danger in our entrances, and we want to live in harmony with nature as much as we can.
Meg Campbell, CBC News, Greenwood.
Well, there's a picture-perfect spot through the Nova Scotia webcams. That's Lockport Crescent Beach. Ryan is up next with his forecast. Stay with us.
The weather update is brought to you by Tourisme Gaspésie. Plan your stay in Gaspésie at tourismegaspésie.com and enjoy extraordinary moments.
All right, at long last, the weekend is here,
Yep.
and good weather for the dads.
Yeah, great weather for the dads, and we'll be, yeah, you're right, good. We shouldn't say great because, you know, it could be a little bit warmer, I suppose, but it'll be dry. And listen, based on the past 12 weekends.
Yeah, our track record has not been good.
Not that great. So I guess we can say great. Yes, have a look first and foremost at our webcam video this evening, and you can see beautiful Peggy's Cove, and that'll be a beautiful spot, and perhaps a few dads and families going out there to enjoy those sights on Sunday. Sunday is, Amy, going to be the better day of the two.
Okay.
Chance for showers on Saturday, but overall it is going to be isolated showers, and I'm not really convinced that we'll see a really damp day anywhere. As you can see, we are looking at temperatures out there right now ranging between 14 and 19 degrees across the mainland. Actually a little bit cooler in Canso and Antigonish at 12 or 13, and that you can see that cooler air is certainly in place across Cape Breton. Those winds, yeah, they've been a bit spring-like today, for sure, from the northwest, and you can see some gusts upwards of 46 kilometers per hour at Port Hawkesbury at last check. A couple of very isolated showers here over in and around the Cobequid Bay area right now. Otherwise, it's just been a bit of cloud that's kicked up this afternoon in this cool northwest flow, in this cooler air mass that has settled in on the other side of this front that moved through yesterday. This is the system we're going to be watching, and that will be crawling to our south, but this area of high pressure will help to drive it to the south and keep, for the most part, keep it out of the mix. Now, as we look at the temperatures across the country, right now, temperatures riding into the teens and low 20s across most of the country. St. John's sticking out like a sore thumb. 5 degrees right now, Iqaluit at 6, and you can see temperatures really, really warm across most of the U.S. right now. Now, as we look at the forecast for tonight, temperatures are going to be dropping into the mid to high single digits for most. The cooler spots are going to be here across the eastern mainland. This is where we have the slight risk of some low-lying inland frost. And if you are here in the interior parts of Guysborough, Pictou, Antigonish counties, even interior eastern Halifax County, perhaps want to cover up those frost-sensitive plants as things are going to be pretty cool through the overnight into tomorrow morning. Better to be safe than sorry. And you can see this is where the skies will be clear here across the east. Clouds building in here across the west, and for tomorrow you can see, I think across the mainland, the clouds are going to remain pretty dominant, especially for the first half of the day. Cape Breton, a solid mix of sun and cloud throughout the day tomorrow. Note the showers, Yarmouth and Shelburne. I think that's going to be our greatest chance for showers tomorrow. Into the afternoon, we're going to see in the sun breaks, in between the sun breaks, some isolated showers popping up here, especially across the eastern parts of the mainland. A slight risk on the other side into Cape Breton as well. But we are looking at just a slight risk here and back towards the central areas as well. This is where we'll see also the very slightest risk for a rumble of thunder will be here in the east. Temperatures, mid to high teens across Cape Breton tomorrow, light variable winds, 18 degrees. Antigonish back through Sherbrooke towards New Glasgow. Truro will be right near 20 degrees tomorrow. Mid to high teens through the South Shore region for tomorrow, and we'll be back into the high teens and near 20 for the valley. Now, let's run you through into Sunday, and you can see for Father's Day, it is indeed looking like a great day. We're going to be talking about a mix of sun and cloud. Temperatures warming up quite nicely. We'll be into the high teens and low 20s, so looking good here. Area of high pressure moves off, and we've got for Monday another solid start to the work week with temperatures right around 20 to 22 degrees. Now, showers for Wednesday, and that's when we're going to start to see the mugginess building in, and I do think Thursday, Friday into next week, that mugginess is really going to push and it's going to be sustained. So if you're perhaps looking for a little something to do this weekend, maybe you have one of those AC units that you have to get out of the garage or the attic, might be a good idea to pop it in the window if you're not a fan of the mugginess.
Yeah, you're going to want it, it sounds like.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks for that, Ryan.
Thank you.
Coming up, some horses return to Ross Farm after stable renovations and upgrades aimed at improving animal care. Provincially funded Ross Farm Museum has been under scrutiny over the condition of horses in their care. In November, members of the museum board asked longtime equestrian and high-performance coach Susan Fraser to evaluate the condition of the animals and make suggestions for care improvements. This after reports were made about concerns for the horses' welfare. Several horses were removed from Ross Farm. 2 of them, plus a foal born off property, were returned there this week. I'm here with Susan Fraser with 2 of the horses, Willie and Kate. So Susan, you were asked to go to the farm in November. What did you see? What did you smell?
When I walked in, my heart just broke. The horses in straight stalls, tied up with not much lead, no water, no feed buckets, no bedding. The stalls, if they would try and lay down, weren't long enough for them. The air was so full of urine and stagnant that your eyes burned, you couldn't breathe, which is very damaging to any horse's lungs. Just thought, holy cow. Their hair was so full of the smell of urine, and they had urine burns on their skin.
And besides that, physically, emotionally, how did you assess them?
Well, their eyes were just dead. You know, it's like they just were in such a stage of depression, in my opinion. No life in their eyes. Just maybe were they regretting each day? I don't know. They were fed what you call dairy ration, which has myosin in them. And a lot of horses would die within hours, others not. This is how stoic these horses are, but it hits them systemically, and it also hits the feet. The pain that they would be going through, and the extreme look of their feet, you knew they were in a bad stage of what we would call founder.
And vets confirmed this?
Yes. The x-rays showed Kate was a broken coffin bone, and 18 degrees rotation. So yes, they were sore in the feet. And then still hauling loads, still expected to do the regime at Ross Farm.
So how did they end up coming here?
Well, my understanding is the board, the man that was looking after them reached out for help. He said, I can keep looking after them, but I need someone that could help build their health back. So I was down horses for the winter intentionally because it's hard work for somebody my age, even not my age. And when I saw the condition, I couldn't say no.
And they've done well here?
Yes, it's been a very positive journey as far as just the years I've had experience from all these people in different countries, different provinces, the background. Like, you listen to the horse, they start to tell you where to go. And that's what experience does. And then so many people in this barn just helped out.
Now, things changed this week. 3 of the horses went back.
The government decided that those 3 were going back.
What was that like for you?
Very sad. Just because once they're been traumatized in a certain situation, it's the same smells, it's the same people. It's like anybody with post-traumatic stress. And, you know, so you had your concerns that way.
What would you like to see happen going forward then?
I think our trust would be in transparency. How about live stream cameras? So we the taxpayers, can see what's happening.
Now, these are rare horses as well.
Yes, they are the national horse of Canada.
Canadian horses, that's what they're called,
horses,
right?
French Canadians, yeah. They came over in the days of Louis XIV, I guess. That's what I understand. And they fought in the Plains of Abraham. You know, they have quite a history to them. And they are supposed to be protected by policy right now.
All right, well, Susan, thank you so much for your time. We appreciate it.
Okay, thank you very much.
When contacted by CBC, the executive director of Ross Farm Museum declined to comment and referred us to the province. The Department of Community, Culture, Tourism and Heritage released a statement this week confirming the return of some of those horses to Ross Farm. It goes on to say, over the past few months, pastures and paddocks have been expanded and self-watering stations have been installed for all farm animals. The horse stables have been renovated with larger stalls, improved flooring, and better airflow. A daily checklist now guides feeding, stall cleaning, and other core tasks. Vets have already noted major improvements in animal care. We will continue working with our partners at Ross Farm Museum to ensure those standards are consistently met. Coming up, Iran retaliates after Israel launches a series of strikes targeting the country's nuclear program. And rescue teams in India have found one of 2 black boxes from the wreckage of Thursday's plane crash. Welcome back. Iran has launched dozens of missiles at targets in Israel. It's in retaliation for Israel's biggest ever military attack against Iran. And it comes after Israeli airstrikes hit key nuclear facilities in Iran and killed some of the country's top military leaders. The CBC's Chris Brown reports.
Missiles streaked over Tel Aviv Friday, and some Iranian projectiles appeared to breach Israel's air defenses, hitting buildings in a dramatic escalation. Israel had appeared in control all day, attacking Iranian military sites, including the residences of its nuclear scientists, killing them and their families. The Zionist regime made a grave mistake. It acted wrongly, and by God's will, the consequences will bring it to ruin, said Supreme Ruler Ali Khamenei.
More is on the way. The regime doesn't know what hit them. They don't know what will hit them.
Israel's prime minister said the planning took 6 months. Its intelligence services released a rare video of what it said were Mossad agents inside Iran taking out air defenses. In Tehran, people mourned the stunning assassinations of so many top military leaders. The dead included the chief of the armed forces and the head of the Revolutionary Guard. Protesters accused the U.S. and Western countries of betraying Iran for using weeks of what they said were sham nuclear talks to help Israel prepare.
What Israel strategic aims, are not just to destroy Iran's nuclear program, but basically regime change in Iran itself. And that's why I think Iran faces an existential moment.
Israel's strikes included extensive damage to the Natanz facility used by Iran to enrich uranium that could have been potentially used to build a nuclear weapon. The UN's nuclear watchdog expressed alarm.
Nuclear facilities must never be attacked, regardless of the context or circumstances.
In Tel Aviv, a high-rise apartment building was gutted, with reports of wounded, along with other buildings hit and damaged in the suburbs. Chris Brown, CBC News, London.
Canada is keeping a close watch over developments between Israel and Iran. Foreign Affairs Minister Anita Anand says Israel has the right to defend itself, but Canada wants to see de-escalation. As Kate McKenna reports, it's happening as world leaders are set to meet Sunday at the G7 summit in Alberta.
As the world becomes more dangerous, Canada is set to take center stage, hosting the G7 next week.
The G7 might be an occasion for those countries to speak a common voice and say that there must be no escalation in this conflict.
Canada's foreign minister says Israel has the right to defend itself, but calls for de-escalation.
The concerns relating to potential escalation are real, and the key is going to be to de-escalate and to reach a negotiated solution.
The minister has called on all sides to de-escalate the situation, to get to the table to talk. We need to have a real and lasting peace, and that can only happen if people are talking with each other.
The official opposition stands steadfast behind Israel.
Israel has a right to defend itself, including by disarming Tehran's nuclear program. We should all hope that this is the end of the regime's nuclear program and that the great Persian people can now rise up to reclaim their country from this totalitarian regime.
With Iran now launching a counterattack, this conflict risks overshadowing next week's G7 summit in Kananaskis.
With Israel's attack on Iran, the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, Iran-Israel dynamics have to be at least informally on the agenda. And here there is scope for disagreement, there is scope for tension to rise. So if anything, it makes Prime Minister Carney's job way more complicated than it already was.
I mean, the issue of the Middle East would always be on the agenda of a G7 meeting. So absolutely, but the issues of prosperity, security, and all of the other issues that the Prime Minister will bring will have to be talked about.
Next week's G7 was already expected to be one of the most consequential in years, with a focus on war and peace, energy security, and building international relationships. Kate McKenna, CBC News, Ottawa.
Investigators have recovered the flight data recorder from the plane that crashed Thursday in India. More than 240 people were killed when the Boeing Dreamliner went down after takeoff. Salima Shivji reports. But first, a warning. Viewers may find some details and images in this story disturbing.
The ambulances line up in the oppressive heat, one by one, gathering the remains of the still unidentified crash victims in yellow body bags, moving them to cold storage. The smell of loss lingers everywhere as families wait for news and hand over their DNA.
The brutal heat of the crash and its wreckage left many of the victims unrecognizable. Only a small handful of bodies have been returned to their families so they can begin to grieve. The rest need DNA test results in order to be identified.
For Imtiaz Ali Syed, it's an excruciating wait. His brother, sister-in-law, and the couple's 2 young children were all on board the doomed flight, and he's struggling to process it.
I am not yet now. I am not imagining that he is dead. I am really seeing that from somewhere he will come and he will ask me that whether I am here for you.
Recovery efforts continue at the crash site where more than 240 people died, including Canadian dentist Nirali Patel, and the investigation is intensifying. One black box has been found. The flight data recorder holds crucial clues for investigators who are looking at possible issues with the aircraft's engine thrust and landing gear to figure out what led it here. India's Prime Minister got a look at the destruction the plane left behind the morning after the disaster and spoke with the lone survivor, the miracle man who somehow walked away from the crash. I saw people dying right in front of my eyes, Vishwash Kumar Ramesh told the national broadcaster. I can't believe I got out alive. A hole in the fuselage providing him an escape from the worst plane disaster India has seen in decades. Salima Shivji, CBC News, Ahmedabad, India.
The Air India crash investigation will inevitably look at the plane itself and its manufacturer. While Boeing's issues with other models have long been under the microscope, the 787 Dreamliner has an excellent flight safety record. Anis Haidari has more.
Even through grief and shock, the search is on for what caused the fatal crash. It's a tragic first for the Boeing 787 Dreamliner.
The 787 has never had an incident like this, and so it is very important to understand again exactly what happened and why, and what was the role of the aircraft.
In a statement, Boeing says it stands ready to support the investigation led by India. The Dreamliner 787 has flown around the world for more than a decade.
And in the 15 years that they've been in production and are flying globally, that's pretty close to 1 million flying hours. So very safe, very reliable, technically advanced airplane.
But Boeing's record isn't totally clear on other models. 189 people died after a 737 MAX 8 took off from Indonesia in 2018. The same model crashed in 2019, killing 157 in Ethiopia. And while not fatal, last year saw a door blow off another model mid-flight. Plus, whistleblowers have claimed the company took shortcuts on manufacturing and safety, something U.S. regulators have focused on.
And certainly holding Boeing accountable to deliver a high-quality product safely.
The company has gone through 3 CEOs since 2019 with criticism that it's too focused on the financial bottom line. Boeing's current leader has said values need to shift.
They've made a commitment to the public and to their shareholders and to the regulators about the need to change the corporate culture at Boeing.
It's too early to know where the investigation will lead, but the families of those on this flight will want answers. So will millions of potential passengers on future flights. Anis Haidari, CBC News, Calgary.
About 200 Marines have moved into Los Angeles to protect federal property. They were deployed by U.S. President Donald Trump, who says they're needed to stop rioters. Protests started last week over Trump's crackdown on undocumented migrants. The Marines are in addition to thousands of National Guard troops. Meanwhile, preparations are underway in Washington for a parade Saturday celebrating the 250th anniversary of the U.S. Army. The celebration coincides with President Trump's 79th birthday. Large so-called No Kings demonstrations are expected across the country at the same time to protest against Trump's authoritarian style of leadership. A new report from the Canadian Institute for Health Information is out. It shows an increase in medical procedures over the past few years that have helped clear the backlog created by the pandemic. But it also points to longer wait times for some surgeries. Christine Birak reports.
More surgeries are happening in Canada, but compared to 2019, a new report shows more patients are also waiting longer.
I can understand that it seems maybe counterintuitive at first.
Here's how it breaks down. In 2024, the number of hip and knee replacements went up, along with cancer surgeries. And if you need a new hip, the goal is to have surgery within about 6 months. 68% of patients did. But pre-pandemic, the rate was 75%. Same goes for knee replacement surgery. More patients left waiting. And waits for some cancer surgeries also increased by 1 to 5 days. So what's changed?
A growing and aging population that is really increasing the demand and the need for surgery.
The number of Canadians 65 and older has grown by 19% since 2019. Patients are more complex, and there's a shortage of healthcare workers.
This is not something that just all of a sudden happened.
Some patients argue governments knew these hurdles were coming and failed to invest in workers and beds.
All of a sudden, I'm finding out that my 6 months is now a year, so things haven't gotten any better. It's very disappointing.
How long you wait can depend on where you live. In Ontario, 79% of patients had their knee replaced within about 6 months. In Alberta, the number drops. And in Quebec, it's even lower.
I do hear patients in our area as well that come to us that mention that they had to get their surgery done in a private center and they had to take money out of their RRSPs to get their surgery done.
At this public hospital in Quebec, Dr. Jan Armano says they're cutting wait times by sending patients to the next available surgeon and extending surgery hours.
Our wait time is between 3 and 4 months for a knee and hip arthroplasty. We only have about 10% of our patients on the waiting list have currently been waiting for more than 6 months.
He thinks provinces can speed up wait times by incentivizing recently retired healthcare workers with flexible hours and finding ways to keep the employees they have to get more Canadians the surgeries they need. Christine Birak, CBC News, Toronto.
The Edmonton Oilers host the Florida Panthers Saturday night in Game 5 of the Stanley Cup Final. The best-of-7 series is tied at 2 games apiece. It was 1990 when Edmonton last won the Cup. But as Ali Chiasson reports, Oiler fans have never stopped cheering and are now a force of their own.
Oilers fans are built different. They're part of the team. They don't hoot and holler. They sing the national anthem. And they come decked out.
Painted the beard, got a lot of positive attention, decided to bring some face paint to paint myself the next game, skyrocketed from there.
You'll find these dedicated face painters in the moss pit outside, and they're busy.
My rule is when the puck's in play, I'm not painting. Not everybody's patient, but I do my best.
Inside Rogers Place, you'll hear the usual jock jams. If they win, that's followed by Player's Choice, which these days is... It moves the decibel meter for sure. And the players get a boost too.
The energy, the experience, the excitement, that's all really coming from the fans themselves, and the players feed off of that.
A lot of Oilers fans went through called a decade of darkness where the Oilers didn't make the playoffs for 10 straight years.
Oilers fans have seen the rig run dry.
These are amazing times right now. Please don't take it for granted.
I was going through a hard time in my life. I was going through my recovery from residential school, day school, addictions. I was a street person.
Superfan Don Burnstick remembers seeing Gretzky hoist the cup in 1984 on the TVs inside the Bay store from the sidewalk.
And I started my journey in healing and empowerment. And now, 40 years later, I'm sitting behind a bench watching them play.
Question is, Is there room for bandwagon fans?
It's Canada's team. And yes, please jump on board. There's a seat right beside me.
It's a really special time to be an Oilers fan. We always welcome new fans on board.
Even Calgary?
What I'll say is that the invitation is certainly out there. It's up to them what they do with it.
Face paint? Check.
Oh, yes. Love it.
Custom hand-beaded Oilers gear? Check.
This is my lucky medallion.
Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl, Stuart Skinner? Check. All that's missing is the cup. Ali Chiasson, CBC News, Toronto.
They're pumped up. Well, Canada's main stock index closed down along with U.S. markets Friday as investors became cautious following Israeli attacks on Iranian nuclear and military targets. Here's a look at the numbers as we head to break.
The weather update is brought to you by Tourisme Gaspésie. Plan your stay in Gaspésie at tourismegaspésie.com and enjoy extraordinary moments.
Okay, it's Friday the 13th. We're talking about the 13th weekend in a row where we get some wet weather, but I still think we're lucky.
Yeah. I do think that as well. And this is really, in terms of all the weekends where there has been precipitation, that this is going to be one of the better ones.
Good.
Just isolated showers in the mix for tomorrow. And this picture is a good reminder that we are indeed lucky that we have had some wet weather, because this picture, a good reminder of what has been in the mix in our skies. Of course, that smoke from the western wildfires. Oh. And Susan saying the sunrise at Western Shore looking like almost Mars rising there with quite a sight. And the sun has definitely been looking like this during sunrise and sunset over the last few weeks with all that wildfire smoke. And thanks to Susan for sharing this. Ryan's picks at CBC.ca. Now, as we look at the forecast for Saturday, we're looking at a few isolated showers in the mix, temperatures into the high teens, low 20s, variable light winds, 5 to 15 kilometers per hour. And I do think that, the sea breezes will certainly be in place, but nothing too significant. Now, as we look ahead to Sunday for Father's Day, high teens, low 20s in place yet again under a mix of sun and cloud. Maybe a little bit stronger of a sea breeze along that Atlantic coastline, but it is going to be a nice day overall. And I think we'll take that. No complaints. Let's have a quick look at the future tracker just to show you. There's that system passing to the south. I think the best chance of a couple of bands of showers will be down towards the south and west, as you can see. And then into the daytime heating, with that sun breaking through, we will see the potential for some pop-up showers and maybe a rumble of thunder through the interior parts of the province, mainland Nova Scotia, perhaps edging into Port Hawkesbury into the afternoon. Now, as we work our way into Sunday, there's that high moving off to the south and keeping things quiet. Monday's quiet as well. Tuesday looks quiet, though building clouds, and it does look like the mugginess really building in mid to late next week. And so, just be mindful of that to prepare accordingly.
Right. Well, speaking of the sun, even with cutting-edge instruments, there's only one angle from which humans have ever seen the sun until now. Our view of the home star has always been from one vantage point, head-on, facing the equator of our host star, as all the planets go around it. But a robotic spacecraft changed that in March.
The European Space Agency's Solar Orbiter did a flyby from beyond Venus, dropping below the orbital plane to capture never-before-seen images of the sun's south pole from 65 million kilometers away. For reference, Earth is more than double that distance from the sun.
That is pretty cool.
Yeah.
All right, well, that is it for us tonight. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.
Have a great weekend.